I've been rambling on for a while. Does anybody have any questions about any of this stuff in terms of where we're going, where we came from, what we can do to either protect ourselves or start having some of these conversations? Oh, yes.
Yeah, Laura, what advice do you give those of us who are helping people go through divorce? And second question is, how did you decide to disrupt the industry in this way using technology?
So the first answer is, if you're helping somebody go through divorce, and this is on two levels, and it's funny because when Johnny and I do our Divorce Sex podcast, we have a section of it that's called interrogatories, which is lawyers ask these questions during discovery, and one of the interrogatories is, what do you tell your friends going through divorce? One is, what do you tell a friend or family member, how do you treat them? And then the other is, as a kind of a financial advisor, what do you tell them? I really believe that there is and this may be because I'm a Gemini, it may be because I'm slightly bipolar, I don't know. I believe there's two sides to divorce. One is the emotional side, where you really are grieving and you are going through something emotional, and you should have a very good counselor, therapist, support group of friends and family if possible. It's huge. And it is a longer process than the business transaction of the divorce, which is the thing that has always gotten to me, that this, if you can do that part of it. My clients that come in and say, we're getting divorced, can you help me start getting through this process? I say, yes. Are you in counseling? Well, yes, I am. Do you have a therapist? Yes, I do. Go talk to that person. If there's a little bit of time, and that's why in California, we have a 6-month waiting period. As that time goes on and you get used to the idea that this is going to happen, you're going to take this path, and you do the work that you need to do therapeutically. And don't ask me, because even at $8.50 an hour, I'm not qualified to tell you how to do that, but I've watched people go through it very successfully. That's the hard part. The easy part is the financial part. Figure out everything you have. As I said, you must, in a divorce, what you have, what you owe, what you make, and what you spend. Those will be disclosed in easy to follow forms, and then you divide up what you have and what you owe, and you figure out what you make and what you spend. There may be a downsize. That makes sense, unless you're incredibly wealthy. But for the most part, you're gonna have a big asset like a house or something, which you're probably gonna, either one party's gonna buy the other person out, or you're gonna sell it and you'll have two equity, a little bit smaller. Some retirement, hopefully you'll be able to keep that as retirement, and then you figure out the support component. What do we spend every month, and how do I divvy that up so that this person's getting enough to hopefully live in a lifestyle close to what he or she was accustomed to, and I can do the same. So you want to really tell the people that you're helping, whether you're helping them from a financial or legal business standpoint, let's treat it as that. I mean, I say that all the time, guys, the more you argue, the more money I make. I drive a Porsche. I don't need any more money. Let's get through this transaction and then go to therapy. She's only $3.50 an hour and she's really good. So that's part of it. And then, as though this didn't dovetail pretty well, the reason I decided to disrupt it, and I didn't even know I was disrupting it, I wrote the book in 2013. And it's so interesting how much things have changed even then. When my publishers, when the book came out, they took it to a bunch of different television and morning shows, and we did okay, but a lot of people were like, divorce. It's a great book and it sounds great. It doesn't have to be that way, but we don't like to talk about divorce on, the House and Garden channel or whatever else. Cut to 5 years later, and it may be because I represented more famous people between now and then, but I don't think so. Everybody wants to have us on Good Morning America and this and that. I think because the tech world is a little bit different, and I also think because people are coming around to the idea, shit is happening, so we better figure out a way to talk about it, and how do we educate people and how do we talk about it. And that's why I make very good money in my day job. I do believe that the time has come to start having this conversation. And again, whether it's people going on the platform and going online and getting divorced, or seeing all of the providers that we have on our index. This person will help you clean out your closet and restyle. This person will help you get medical insurance if it's no longer available through your spouse's employer. This person will help you move and find a new apartment or house. This person will help you get a spray tan before your first date. This person will help you get your first date. Whatever it is, you need that source. This person will help you with childcare because you need somebody to take care of your kids when you go on your first date and you don't have a bunch of family around. All of those providers are on our site. and then tons and tons and tons of content. And to the extent anybody sitting here is motivated to write something, we'll put it on our blog, because I want people to be communicating and talking, and all of that's free. The only part that's not free is if you actually get divorced and you go on the platform, there's 3 price points. The highest is $2,500, which again, it's like 2 hours of my time. So the thought that people could really be using this and making it more easy if they already are going through it was something that, I don't know, it resonated with me. It just seems so silly that people were still kind of going through these machinations when really, I know I can still see you feeling nervous about how we're going to have to talk about the prenup. Wine helps. I mean, for whatever that's worth. But yeah, drink now, drink at the dinner when you talk about the prenup. But you know, these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having before, during, after. I say to people all the time, if you're not in therapy during your relationship, you should be. How many people in here go to the gym? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people in here go to therapy? Raise your hand. Okay, almost the same. It's like the gym. It's so good for you. You need to have that once a week. And look, I don't even know anybody in my family that I'm related to that benefits from being a therapist. I'm just saying, having that space once a week, twice a week, every other week to kind of just go vent and it's safe is just as important as getting your endorphins going and your heart rate up and everything else. And it's particularly important if you are in a relationship, because I will tell you from personal and professional experience, if you don't, that stuff it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And one of a few things happens. Either you completely shut down, you cheat, you get really, really angry. None of those are good. If it really bugs you that he leaves the seat up, tell him and figure out a mechanism to see, put a note up, don't leave the fucking seat up. I mean, whatever it is, talk about it. Because if you just every night walk into the bathroom and fall into the bowl, it's gonna start pissing you off. Trust me. Yes.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
I'm Mary Thorson.
Yes.
I am a divorce survivor. I have
Congratulations.
so many questions for you, even in retrospect. But you've got an app, and I can't imagine how I ever could have built enough trust with my former first husband to have gone through an app together for it's Over Easy Divorce.
Right.
So what do you need to do to walk through your app to have a successful divorce?
So generally what happens, and we only launched in January, but the way that we modeled it and the way it's been working is one person comes on first and they read some of the content, and they generally, interestingly, will like to have at least one phone call. And again, I'm a lawyer, but the majority of the people working there are not lawyers. They just want to know there's somebody there at the other end, somebody to talk to. They may just be tech questions that they have, but there's somebody there. So they'll talk to us and whatever, and then what they do is invite their spouse to join. Now I get there's not a high level of trust, but we're totally neutral in terms of the app, and the trust comes from the necessity of, here's what we're gonna spend on this, and here's what we spend if we both get attorneys or use a mediator or whatever else. And I don't just mean the financial expense, there's also the emotional expense. If we know our kids better than anybody else knows our kids. We know what night Tommy takes karate, and we know what night so-and-so takes art or whatever, and where they need to be, and what their special huggy is, or their barrettes, or what sports, whatever there is that's going on. We can figure this out better than anybody that's ever been in a family law courtroom one time knows. These judicial officers are rock stars, but they don't have time. It's overcrowded. They don't know, and they can't have time to know or care what your personal situation is. And if you think that that's the case with your kids, for sure it's the case with your finances. You guys know better than anybody else what your mortgage is, you know what you owe, you know what you make, you know what you need, and all the money that you save talking about that together and dividing it up will be money that you will be able to spend on babysitting, spray tanning. I don't know why I'm so on the spray tanning. I haven't gotten spray tan in months. I'm just saying, like, those are things that you will want to spend your money on, as opposed to divorce attorneys that are writing letters about a vase that maybe you don't even care about. So again, you have to build that trust. That's why I have talks like these, because I'm not just trying to peddle the app. I'm trying to get people to a place where they're like, well, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, I'm banking online. I trust this tech system to do my banking. I trust this tech system when I go on Net-a-Porter and I order something. They have my credit card number. They could do so much with my credit card number. Why wouldn't I trust something that I don't have to give any of that information to, just what I have? They can't even get into it online. And so, again, it will take some trust. I believe we will get there because it makes sense. Yellow shirt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful yellow shirt.
Thank you. My question's around kind of the when you have certain conversations. So for someone like myself, I'm married. You have the conversations like you mentioned around what's your student debt, what's your outstanding loans, things like that that maybe are deal breakers, maybe not, I don't know. When do you have those conversations, and how do you know if it is a deal breaker, or what do you do if it is something that's way outside of what you expected?
Good question. But the same question goes for if you're going to talk about having kids. I mean, I don't know the answer. It has to, I think, be somewhat organic. You don't want to sit down in front of somebody and be like, so here's the questions that you need to fill out here on the first date. It sounds to me from the folks that I know that do online dating, you download a bunch of information before you ever meet the person, so maybe it's easier then. I don't know that on the first or second day you're like, so, what's your student debt? How are we doing? And how many ovaries do you have left so that you can figure out what, but I think if it's starting to get serious, these are conversations that certainly if you're getting engaged, they're a conversation you should have. And I think also before you move in together, more people these days, and I think it's wise, clearly it's super wise since I moved in with two people and procreated with them before I ever got married to them. I think it's important to have those conversations. I also think as you get to know somebody better, you'll be able to gauge when it's appropriate to have those conversations. And I also think that you'll probably have these red flags of, this might be a good time to have this conversation because there was just a debt credit person that came to the house, and that's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know the right answer to that, but I know that it's before you probably sign a lease, and it's probably before you walk down the aisle. Yes?
For your client that you're going through it with, how do you get them to separate the emotion from the finances?
Beat them over the head with my stapler. It's not easy. I mean, look, the good news for me in terms of the people that I'm going through it with in my office is, like I said, I say to them, this is costing so much money. I can't be your therapist. I'm not qualified. Look at me, I'm a hot mess. I have these two kids. But for the most part, again, and I have clients that have business managers and agents and attorneys and whatever else. There's a support group there that helps because all of those folks generally want to make sure that whoever it is getting back out in front of the camera or behind the computer or whatever, and so everybody's earning their percentage commissions. But I have a real straight talk with them. And as I said, generally they appreciate it because they're like, wait, you're telling me right now that I should not be emotional and not be arguing and that makes less money for you. And I say, yes. And they say, where's the catch? And I say, there is no catch. I mean, I want you to go through this. I have a little ADD, so I don't want to be working on your case for too long. It's boring. And I want you to move out into the world and then tell somebody else, hey, Laura Wasser, she was a good lawyer. She did the right thing by me. I mean, honestly, it really is just the right thing to do. And when I see other attorneys, I think probably it must have been about 8 years ago now. There's a woman that I had always really looked up to. I thought she was she dressed cool and she had a good name in Southern California and she was a good family law attorney, and I was up against her and we were just about to settle this case. And we had a retired judge that was working with us, and it was mostly custody. Both of the kids were kind of trust funders and the money wasn't really an object. But there were two kids, and we were talking about how to work out the custody. We could come up with a step up for dad. My client was dad, and so he needed to have a little time to get up to a 50-50 custody arrangement, and we were there. And the judge had kind of typed it all up, and she threw a wrench in the works. And I said, what are you doing? And she made up some cockamamie thing, and I said, can you come outside for a second? I said, what are you doing? We're good, we're done, it's 3:30, this is working. And she goes, yeah, it's 3:30, I haven't used up my retainer on this yet, let's get back in there. And again, I know, I'm such a baby in the woods, I'm so naive, but I literally was like, oh my God, dude, you are fucking evil, this is horrible. And I never looked at her the same way again. I mean, she actually said it. Like, she didn't just think it, which I can see a lot of people do. But it's horrible. And that was when things kind of started to change for me, and I was like, this is not okay. How do you look at yourself in the mirror? People already hate lawyers enough. I'm not saying I'm curing cancer. I'm just saying I'm taking people that are in crappy situations and trying to get them out the other side. So when I tell people stories like that, or, hey, every time you argue I make more money, I think it does resonate with them. I got no dog in this fight. Come on, let's argue. I'll buy another car or a beach house or whatever else. But if you don't, think how much better off we'll be. And a lot of those people, they have so much money, maybe they don't particularly care, but the emotional trauma that they go through, and the idea that they, and we're seeing the Gwyneth Paltrow, conscious uncoupling, all that. We are seeing good examples of our celebrities going through it in a better way and going on vacations together and raising kids together. I'll tell you, as someone who's been through it, I picked baby daddy 1 up from his colonoscopy this morning because I didn't know who else was going to pick him up, and I wanted to make sure that he didn't crash his car on the way home. So I picked him up before I went to my office and had a meeting, and then met Johnny at LAX. That's what you do. They're your family. As an attorney or litigator who deals a lot with conflict, you generally, in most fields, are dealing with 2 people or 2 entities that won't see each other again. That's not the case in family law, particularly if you have kids. You're gonna see this person again forever, and it doesn't end when they're 18. Both of my parents were in the delivery room when I had both of my kids. They weren't married, they were with other people. Both of them walked me down the aisle when I had that wedding in 1993. Both of them were at my college graduation and my law school graduation, and we all have Thanksgiving together. You know how nice that is for me? And then when we have Thanksgiving, both baby daddies are there, and my current boyfriend's there with his 2 kids. My mom's like, oh, I got getting another wing for this table with you. But it's just more people who love my kid, and my kids seem like, besides the pink hair, like they're doing okay. Yes?
How did you personally become able to kind of like take your emotion out of the work that you're doing, in terms of like, maybe in the beginning were you ever like biased toward, the one side or the other? And then as a side question, do you have a background in financial planning, or do you have financial planners that work for you that are able to?
I think I might have said a few minutes ago that $2,500 was like 2 hours of my bill. Like, I'm terrible at math. And I thought, oh, moron, he's going to say that's not $2,500. I'm horrible at math. Usually in high conflict and complex litigation, we have forensic accountants that help, and then I will generally, if they don't have a business manager, which often the out spouse doesn't have, I will hook them up with somebody that's in finance that can help them moving on. But back to the first question, yeah, I mean, look, this is a field where you do get into it. I think the people that can't do it long and burn out are the people that really do take it home with them. Everything I've gone through, when I got my first divorce, my only divorce, when I bought my first house, when I had my kids, like, I get when someone says to me, I can't imagine not having them every morning when they wake up coming into my room. I can't imagine, not being able to kiss them goodnight every night in their bedrooms. And I say, oh man, I feel your pain, I get it. However, the first time you go on a date and you get to walk around naked with a shot glass in your hand, you won't mind that they're not there. I mean, you have to figure out a way to get to a point, and more important than anything, really, or the first time that the other parent goes, I gotta bring him back because he's thrown up so many times, I don't have any clean sheets left. It's been 4 throw-ups, can he come to your house? And you go, I guess I gotta put the shot glass away and get dressed again. But the other thing is, so many people come in and say, all I really care about, my priority is just my kids. I just care about my kids. And then very quickly it kind of devolves to, but how much money am I gonna get or have to pay? It is really, absent, obviously, situations where there's domestic violence or really bad drug abuse when the children are there, best for kids to have frequent and continuous contact with both of their parents. And so if we can effectuate that, if they're not living across the country or in different countries, that is best for kids. And again, I will say to people, could have been a real asshole as a husband, doesn't mean he's a real asshole as a father, and maybe he is a real asshole as a father, but that helps kids develop a coping mechanism. Doesn't mean, bless you, that they should be with you all the time. Plenty of people, some of them in this room, grew up with one or the other parent that was a real asshole, and we're doing okay, Because that's how you figure out how to get through life and deal with an asshole boss or an asshole spouse or whatever else. They need to see both of their parents. And again, that's what studies have shown, that it's best for kids. If they're really hurting them, not so good. But for the most part, you have to, excuse the pun, divorce yourself from that as a practitioner and really say that. The other thing is that in this state, at least, there is an unspoken presumption for equal custody. So there are plenty of people that will come to me and say, well, I'm the mom, obviously they're gonna be with me, I think he's horrible and he's a narcissist, or he's a psychopath, or he's bipolar, or whatever it is, because they've diagnosed them themselves, because they know. And you really should only see them probably like once a week for dinner. And again, I would be doing them a disservice to go, I agree, he sounds like a real asshole, let's get him just one night a week for dinner. That's not gonna happen. So $1.5 million later, and a ton of strife, and a ton of things said and written in court documents that will be discoverable one day by kids, and if they're famous, they'll be on TMZ. It's 50-50 custody. Why would you put somebody through that? Why would you do that? Just tell them straight out, that's not what's gonna happen. Might have been a real asshole as a husband, doesn't mean he's a real asshole as a dad. And by the way, the same goes for girls too, just so you know. Might have been a real asshole as a wife, doesn't mean she's a real asshole as a mom. Yes.
Hi, I have two questions. One out of curiosity. So when you see couples who are divorcing, and if they started off their careers as either similar or one was a higher earner, how often do you see the tables turn where the underdog is no longer? And the other question is, you briefly mentioned inheritance and how there can be some nuance there. How exactly does that work? And also, if part of your inheritance may have like licensing fees or royalties or some payment that continues, does that mean anything?
Still separate. So let me answer in reverse order. The inheritance is always an inheritance. And if I were you, or I was advising financial clients, what I would say is keep it separate. Keep those continued royalties, residuals, whatever they are, in a separate account so you can always trace them and keep it separate. The only way that those kind of factor into an equation if you're getting divorced is if the family is really living off of that inheritance, then the person who wasn't making as much money upon divorce could go, well, we were living off of $500,000 a year, and $400,000 of that came from his or her inheritance. So I need some of that. That's income to her, even though it's not money that I'm going to get as community property. So that's the only time it factors in, and even if you keep it separate, it still is going to be factored in as a support or maintenance payment. Keeping things separate, keeping things earmarked, for those of you who are in finance, even if your clients don't have prenups or cohabitation agreements, the more you can do to earmark, and I think we're doing it now anyway just by virtue of our tech, keeping quicken folders, keeping accounts, keeping P&Ls on a monthly or quarterly basis is really helpful. In terms of tables turning, it happens all the time. And I will often have somebody, and again, I feel like I do a lot of prenuptial agreements for young entertainment women and old entertainment men. Old entertainment men are like, I've been doing this for 20 years, I get this much per movie, you gotta do this so that I don't have to pay her, because who knows if she'll be with me after I have to get one of my testicles removed or whatever. But the young women are always like, make sure he doesn't get any support from me, make sure all my tour money stays separate, da-da-da. And all of a sudden, 10 years in, backup dancer has become, Justin Timberlake. Never had anything to do with them, just saying. And now she's like, I don't get any support because we had a mutual support waiver. So you have to really talk about that. And I do find that with women, my young women clients, I say, let's take a beat here, okay? You're super hot right now. No offense, I'm sure you're Madonna and you'll recreate yourself a million times and it'll be great. But in case you don't, let's talk about figuring out a way that, you're comfortable if you have a couple kids and you decide you don't want to go back on the tour circuit, or you don't want to do this, or God forbid, you're not continuing to earn the kind of income that you're earning now when you're 45. Because it does happen. Yes.
I have a comment and a question. My comment is, I'm going through a horrific divorce right now.
I'm sorry.
My husband who has made money in a long, long time.
They're so not good when they don't make money for a long time.
Yep. And so this is sort of a message to anybody who's sort of starting out. And The judge right now says he doesn't have to make any money. He's portraying himself as the primary caregiver. We've had au pairs forever. I have 3 kids. I'm paying him half of everything I'm making. I'm paying him half of my bonuses, and I'm so grateful I'm not with him. So that's the first thing.
By the way, that is what you have to keep reminding yourself when people call me and just bitch and bitch and bitch. I go, but you don't have to be married to her anymore or him. So that keep telling. That's your mantra. We'll get you a T-shirt.
I'm a little concerned by I love the stuff you're saying. I did have that conversation once. We've been married for 18 years with my husband. We were like taking a hike. Maybe we were engaged. And I said, how about a prenup? And he went through the roof. I was like, are you kidding me? You know, that's so unromantic, and how could you suggest that, etc. And I never mentioned it again. And I just want to say, like, if you're sitting here and you're married thinking, oh crap, I screwed this up, or can I do it now? You might never be able to approach that. My advice to you would be like, just go make money. Just go make sure that you have money in your name and assets in your name, and you will have power in your wonderfully romantic, perfect relationship, or if something else happens one day, or if some health crisis happens, you never know. But that's the number one way to take care of yourself, really. My question for you is, do you observe, because some of what I've been experiencing and some of the advice that I get is that California courts, the family courts, are biased, that they're particularly generous towards men, and this idea of, you know, oh, look at my husband, that, oh, he wants to take care of his kids, and he sort of gets this extra credit for it.
I have not found that. And again, I've had cases up here too, and I know, are you in San Francisco, Superior?
I'm in East Bay.
East Bay. I don't know those judges as well. I have not found that. I have still found that there is, and again, this is down in LA County that I'm finding this, there is still kind of like, you don't earn any money? And I think they're very in favor of men being caretakers, but I don't think that they're super in favor of men getting the money. For better or for worse, I'm still finding that there is that gender bias that, like, well, why aren't you making any money? You have a penis, go make some money. They will not feel negatively towards them about sharing custodial time, but the ones that I've had where you have the declarations, or even just the fact of paying au pairs, like, well, if you're paying these people, who's taking care of the kids? And that's happening with both genders, but particularly men, because I do find that men will say, oh, I'm the stay-home dad. And you're like, then why do you have these 4 other people that are around? Well, they bring me the drinks. So I have not found that, and I haven't seen it up here, but again, I don't, and I feel like these judicial officers also, when I started practicing 25 years ago, the same judicial officers had been on the bench for years. Some of them had been at my bat mitzvah, so you can imagine how, and so the biggest problem was if you had a breadwinning mom, or if you had same-sex relationships in some of these, cohabitation or palimony cases, or some of the surrogacy things and stuff like that, they didn't get it. Now what we're having is such a turnover in all of California. We have such a dearth of judicial officers, and family law is like literally the meter-maid judges, and they just don't, nobody wants to do family law, because it is soul-crushing. So we have a lot of people that rotate out, and so you never know. I always try to do a little bit of research on the judges, like what's their political background, what's their marital background, how do you know? But it's hard to say. They have to go to judge school. They're not supposed to have bias, but you never know what somebody brings to the table, so I just don't know. I do think your comment about really making sure, even if, like you said, if you're working harder to become financially secure, even if you know you're going to have to share that money that you're making today with your spouse who you may not want to be with tomorrow, at least you've got that history of earning so that you can then feel comfortable going off and doing your own thing if you need to. It's really important. And I don't know if you feel differently now, but did you think when you had that hike and you said, what do you think about a prenup? Do you think back and go, or do you figure, it was 18 good years, we had 3 good kids, it's okay?
We had many good years and we had 3 great kids. No,
okay, good.
I don't regret it.
Good. It does give you an insight to how people feel about things like money and contracts and stuff like that. And you said, okay, I'm a smart woman. He doesn't, he's not into it. I'm weighing it all in the balance, and I still want to marry him, and that's cool too. The other thing that I will say to all of you and everybody in this room looking at faces, either you are young enough or you look young enough, is it's not the end. I mean, you split up and you move on, and there's no such thing as like that taboo divorcee that lives in the house on the side of the woods. You will date, you will find love. it will take you to the place that you needed to be before, and this is all a journey. So lap it up, folks, because this is not a dress rehearsal, this is your life. And if you are miserable in your marriage, or as you're going through your divorce, tomorrow is the next day of the rest of your life. And do not despair. This doesn't need to be like,
Amen.
they're telling me I have 1 minute left. Anybody else, quick question? Yes, UK.
Quick question, maybe very different from what we've talked about so far, but have you ever had to deal with a difficult manager or a difficult situation or a dickhead as a manager?
Of course, you deal with it and you know your audience. And if you have to be demure and get through it that way, you be demure and get through it that way. And if you have to be a little bit of a truck driver, you do that. For me, and I talk to young women particularly about this all the time, like find your style, you know. For years, I had a boss that said, oh, we wear skirts at this firm. So as a result, I just don't wear that many pantsuits because that's how I was trained. But, you know, I make sure to let the young women at my firm wear whatever the hell they want and they're comfortable in, as long as it's not going to offend anybody. And that's a very wide berth that we give them. But yeah, you do what you need to do, because the fact is that when you are representing somebody, whether it's as a financial planner or as an advocate, as an attorney, you're representing them. And so you do what you need to do for them. I mean, obviously not sacrificing who you are. But yeah, if he's a real dick, but I know that being sweet and demure, I'm going to get what I need from him, that's what I'll do. Are we good, Erin?
Laura, I know you can't name names, but you've got to share with us your most outrageous celebrities. Maybe share some initials.
How happy are you right now? God, my most outrageous celebrity. Well, I mean, I was representing Brittany and we all were watching TV while she shaved her head, and I thought, oh, this isn't going to do well in custody court. However many years later, let's see, that her older son just turned 14 and her younger son just turned 12. No, did he just turn 13? Jaden and Preston. Just had to sit down and renegotiated child support and worked it out. I mean, those are two people who, if you take away all the managers and lawyers and financial people, say what you will about them, they honestly want to do right by their two kids, and they came up with it and they figured it out. So, I mean, I think that was probably the most outrageous. I don't know why I was home, because I think it happened midday, and I had a new baby too, because my son is just a little bit younger than her oldest, and she came out swinging the umbrella. Does everyone remember that? And I thought, oh, this is really not gonna put a kink in my vacation plans. Thank you guys for listening.